welcome to our presentation. For a brief preamble here, I suppose, to the presentation, I'd like to remind everyone that this is just a high overview, meaning people must do their own self-study beyond this presentation to expand comprehension for detail. There are references in language within this presentation that I've used simply because it's how I organize my thoughts. That doesn't mean that it's absolutely correct. Please understand that my comprehension is still in the process of growth and lots of learning as well. So a specific example for that might be where you'll see references to 2D and 3D. That may not be a perfect way to correlate this information in certain subjects. It's how that organizes in my mind and helps me remember what I'm talking about with respect to jurisdiction. So with that said, this is for entertainment and general education only. Is created with care in observance of duty to share knowledge. This is not a complete or in-depth review. I'm going to be a little redundant with making sure that that is clear. It's designed to provide enough information for basic comprehension only, and it's not a requirement to do these things when you're completing papers or responding to certain appointments, for an example, but it's for you, the watcher here, to make that decision whether or not this is something you view as important enough for you to employ in completion of your papers. So today, I'm Cassandra. This is John.
Hi, John.
I'm going to let John narrate the presentation because he's a much better storyteller than I am.
Thank you.
Likes to tell me I'm the chapter and verse lady, and he's the story man. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and we'll get started. All right, John, go for it.
Well, boy, we had to start with the dictionary, huh? But words matter.
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny the way that works.
It's how we express our intent. And the words that we use may not be quite understood by the one that are receiving the words.
Correct.
And that's where the miscommunication and the miscomprehension comes into play.
Absolutely.
A lot. We've lost the grace of conversation.
Yes.
And the recognition of each other's perspectives and backgrounds and how things may apply to one another in our own individuals.
Absolutely agree.
An individual, there you go. There's another contested word.
Yes, yes. Have fun with the dictionary and all that stuff. It's so much fun. They even gave us a dictionary act all the way back in 1871.
Yes, when they employed the Constitution.
Yes.
From the Articles of Confederation and moving forward.
Right. Well, yeah.
So in the Dictionary Act, 1871 there in the U.S. Code, and instructs the courts to apply certain definitions and common words and that kind of stuff. Down here to the middle of it, there was a couple of words that I didn't comprehend or understand. The Act aims to avoid prolixity, and tautology in drafting statutes to prevent doubt and embarrassment in their interpretation. Now, this is to prevent this communication. That's why they define the words, glossary of terms, whatever it is that it may be.
Well, yeah, and then it gets even more confusing. We'd have to go read the whole Dictionary Act, but, you know, if you start studying dictionaries, and I think a lot of us take it for granted, you know, subject matter, it's not even just a dictionary. You can actually have, like within the different titles of the United States Code, for example, there are definitions of words within some of these titles that sometimes change the meaning of the word even just in that title itself. So it is important to pay attention to those things, especially if you're trying to complete certain things in different jurisdictions. Yeah.
An act that was meant to clarify is often used for obfuscation. I believe that's the right word.
I would agree with that.
So the Dictionary Act defines terms such as person, human being, child, and individual to include a born alive infant, as specified in the Born Alive Infants Protection Act of 2002. Additionally, the Act specifies that singular includes plural and plural includes singular unless context indicates otherwise. The present tense includes the future and the masculine includes the feminine.
Like all women are actually men with a womb.
Wombed men.
Wombed men. Words are, they're a lot of fun, guys.
So you want to go to the next slide? We get into a little bit more of the meat of the conversation here. One may wish to recognize the difference between persons and people in certain instances, such as preparation of papers. Now, the preparation of papers, the ink, the pen, the indenture of the expression, those are all 3D functions by the living, versus a digital response, a 2D form for actions such as appointments to an office recognized in common law and equity. Now, this is a personal example that we chose to use because of the Republic right now and what we're doing specifically within the Republic. Most of the people that'll see this in the beginning are aware of the re-inhabited Republic, and this is what we're trying to share and laying the foundation for the re-inhabiting of the assemblies at the county level, which is the foundation and basis of the Republic. So again, the 2D, 3D is the way that Cassandra cognizes things. It's the way that she's been able to express things for a better comprehension to myself and others. And we chose an example right now that's at hand within the Republic itself. For the sake of simplicity, let's say common law and equity are a 3D function. The lawful definitions and commercial maritime law is a 2D form with legal definitions and legal fictions. That's the corporation. In this example, people could be seen as 3D functional and persons as 2D form only. In this case, accepting an appointment in a 2D alone via email, for example, may not be a solid acceptance in 3D for the living man or woman. At least it could be argued over both in law or at law. Legally,
just legally at law.
Just legally at law. In the law is lawful, and at the law is outside of the law or legal at the bar. Did one ever notice the bar in most courts at the front of the room? This is the little fence between the judge's arena and the gallery area. Kind of messed that up there a little bit at the end, but that was a mouthful.
That's okay. It's a lot. This is the most complicated slide.
I am of the comprehension that the bar bars attorneys from entering equity or common law. It doesn't bar us. We can walk freely in and out when acting upon our corporate personhood.
Yes.
But it bars the attorney from entering into common law or equity law. It locks them squarely in commerce.
Because an attorney is stuck in that commercial maritime jurisdiction.
Yeah.
In what we could call, it may not be exactly right, but we could correlate it to a TD format or 2D because it's on paper.
Yeah.
Like corporations are only on paper.
They deal with form. Living men and women deal with substance.
Correct.
This is the difference between the Republic for the people, of the people, versus the corporation.
Yes, I should use substance instead of function.
Okay. While this example may not carry to every area of minutia in lawful or legal word definitions, if one is tending to be recognized in multiple jurisdictions for a position or the thing, then all definitions must be considered in actions taken to prevent controversy. That's to help with the expression of the intention. And the goal here is to take dominion over all three areas of juris.
Yes.
We don't want to lock ourselves out of one or into one as the attorneys
Correct. Yes.
Yes. The main goal to keep in mind is to avoid controversy, confusion, leading to misunderstanding or litigation of facts. We must be clear in communication. Can people be seen in the commercial code? Well, I believe that people can be seen in the commercial code if they're acting as an agent for their corporate personhood.
Agreed.
And
Yes.
and there's many ways to express that. And the use of stamps is one of the main and the oldest.
Right.
Yes. How are people's acts able to be seen in the commercial maritime juris? Through the person, entity, via the agent, or simply through the agent absent of a person, gain peace and commerce? We, the people, act upon our person via expression of comprehension with our papers, which is the rabbit hole we're embarking on today.
For sure.
You got the next slide up there?
Gotcha.
The Stamp Duties Act of 1863, Constitution, 7th Amendment, the jury matter. Now, this is the alphanumerical amount of the stamps. And I wish I had the Constitution here. I'd read the 7th Amendment. But it's in matters greater than $20, reserves the right to settle by a jury of one's peers.
I can grab it for you if you want.
So I think I covered it there pretty good ad-libbing.
You did.
Yeah. So I have a little side note here of where to put the stamps and how much to use, and that kind of depends on the purpose of the paper. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. It also invokes the Constitution's 4th Amendment in the secure in papers and possessions and one's persons. Demonstrates jurisdictional standing in papers. The Republic is within the common law and equity jurisdiction. The common law and equity trust law are superior to commercial maritime jurisdiction. When we use stamps and invoke the UPU, which is the Universal Postal Union Convention, we invoke trust and treaties. This invocation of trust and treaty allows us to act upon our person and commerce from the highest jurisdiction, trust law or equity.
Yes.
Which stamps to use? Alphanumeric versus forever stamps. Forever equals commercial law, fiat, legal tender, equals the Fed. Alphanumeric, numismatic, sometimes as they're called, common law, equity, lawful money, and the Treasury. Fun fact, the postal money orders are also lawful money.
I have a question.
You want to go into why the alphanumeric and not the forever, and how does the money order be lawful money?
No.
Okay.
I wanted to draw on your experience real quick because you're the storyteller, because I didn't get to grow up with such a cool story. I remember you talking about how your grandparents used to go, and I think you said your grandmother went to the bank and your grandfather went to the post office.
That's right. That's right.
And that was really, it's a great illustration.
Yep.
And you have firsthand witness testimony to share. So
I was very young, and we had moved away from my grandmother and my step-grandfather.
Mhm.
And he was very ingenuitive and very industrious and worked all the time. Many different businesses, all kind of correlating with each other, even though they may not connect the dots, quickly.
right.
But he had gas stations. Grandmother had a restaurant, and they also had a bait shop, and he had a commercial bait route. And the gas station and the restaurant and the bait shop was the ideal combination on the way to the lake for the sportsmen and things of this nature and stuff.
Right.
So I was a child, and we'd moved to another state, and I would get to go back and visit with my grandparents. And I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old at this time. So I was more interested in my bicycle and stealing candy bars from the gas station.
Now.
But Grandpa had the little pocket protector. And being the full service station, the air gauge and the tire tread check gauge and all these little things and the cool little gadgets that a young man might look up to his grandfather for. But he also had colored pens.
Okay.
And the reason I know this is because I'm pretty sure I got in trouble for drawing with the colored pens. But the colored pen served a purpose, although I was too young to recognize it.
Right.
But the black or the blue, black is a dead entity, corporation.
Yeah.
The blue is commercial,
Yeah.
business. The red is the living man or woman on the land. And the purple is the fiduciary. The green is the postmaster.
Right. Doesn't
So,
purple also correlate to equity?
yes,
Yes.
fiduciary, the air jurist.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the purple would be the air jurist, the red would be the land jurist, and the blue would be the water jurist.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's all three areas of juris and all three that man's given dominion over in the Bible, and all three that we're commanded to take dominion over.
And we learned over time with this that pursers on ships used to use green,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
the captain's log and captain's
Mhm.
entries and things of that nature. So Grandpa used to go to the post office. He would do the banking and the business at the post office. Now, I don't know what he was doing particularly in there at that time. I was too young to pay attention. I just noticed the difference that when there was postal business to be done, Grandpa went. When there was banking business to be done, Grandma always went to the bank.
Right.
So
Did
they
they ever
knew.
do banking business at the post?
I don't know. I don't know. That was too long ago, and I was too much of a
Right.
child to really absorb that.
We're trying to figure that one out, folks,
Well,
because that's an interesting one for another day,
it
maybe.
fits into the conversation here. My great grandfather was a pipe fitter plumber. My grandfather was a grain miller. My father was a construction worker. I've been a construction worker. That's four generations of my family that I can remember what they've done. Even I didn't know my great grandfather. I just knew
Right.
stories about him. But how much knowledge is lost with the passing of a generation?
Yes.
If it's 25%, because I mean, finding this stuff has been hard. You've been with me
Yeah.
on most of this journey, trying to figure
Yeah.
this stuff out.
And I didn't know much about this at all. I've been studying now for close to 3 years. And there's a lot of people out there who've been studying a lot longer than me, but other backgrounds contribute to really additional study. I started hearing about some of this wild stuff that people think is conspiracy theories actually in my mother's belly. So I don't know. Maybe I've been studying it longer than 3 years and I don't know that, or recognize it. But that's good. So maybe let's move on to the next slide, you think?
Yeah, since
Or
we
did
hit
you
on
have-
it, here, and I brought it up, and now they're all like, well, they brought up how come the money order goes back and
Yes.
forth, but then they got off on something else.
Finish that. Finish that.
So on the Republic side, the de jure side, we have registered mail labels, we have alphanumeric stamps, we have the postal money order.
Yes.
And on the corporate side, we have certified mail, forever stamps, and the postal money order.
Yeah.
So if I have a $21 postal money order here, it's a matter greater than $20, invoking my Seventh Amendment, Fourth Amendment, receiving all of my rights, really.
Right.
I can utilize that $21 lawful money out of the Treasury as the substance to form a trust, which
Yes.
I have in many instances.
Absolutely.
Now, I could also take a $21 money order received as, say, a gift in the mail from a family or loved one or something, and go down to the cafe and buy my breakfast and exchange it at the cash register and get fiat currency in exchange.
Right.
So the postal money order is the one that goes back and forth between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide.
Sorry, guys. I probably should have stopped sharing the slides so you could see us have a better conversation. But, I'm still learning. I reserve that.
Yeah. Historical records show the proper use of stamps indicate jurisdictional comprehension and authority expressed in trust. This is part of standing. Papers establish trust agreements. Stamps acknowledge treaties and charters of higher authority, much like citations. Seals demonstrate source, such as the party or parties who have written and presented a paper. So by putting the stamp on it and autographing across the stamp, it makes us the postmaster of the paper.
Right.
It covers both sides, the criminal side of the stamp as well as the civil side of the stamp.
Correct.
We invoke the UPU on our behalf, which is a higher authority than the maritime water courts that
Yes.
we're dealing with. What I want to ask you is about the application of the seal. We can view a stamp as an application of the seal of our intention to participate in the UPU treaty. Now, I put a red thumbprint
Yep.
on them, and I consider the thumbprint my own personal seal.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, you can have a fancy seal, or you can just use a thumbprint or a fingerprint. Um, I wanted to say something super quick because I did bring up standing in this slide. The reason I say part of standing is because standing is primarily utilized in reference to whether somebody has a reason to make a claim in a case. So there have been cases where people didn't have a vested interest in actually making a claim in a case. So I'm just going to leave that there, but I wanted to add that in. I do realize that standing is not just about comprehension, but I personally feel that it is part of standing because you're going to have an awful time holding up your end of any argument if you don't understand what you're arguing about.
Remember, we do this to the best of our knowledge and abilities. This is a pursuit of more knowledge, better comprehended, and the invoking of the authority to maintain our standing. And we're not perfect, so we have to stop and correct. That's what the whole thing is. Everybody needs to stop and correct. It's when they refuse to stop and correct is when the real problem comes in.
Absolutely. And we're building on the foundational history of our known history and civilization. Really, we are building on historical papers such as the Magna Carta, the Charter of the Forest, to the U.S. Constitution,
all of them,
the organic and inorganic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best terminology,
Yeah.
but I think most of y'all know what I'm trying to say. And the Articles of Confederation, which were the original Constitution.
The Articles of Association, I think, and then Confederation. And
Right.
It's interesting to note because under the Articles of Confederation, we couldn't be recognized as a nation. We were recognized as small independent nations.
Yes.
It was under the Constitution that we finally became recognized as a nation.
Yes.
And I want to interject right here. United we stand, divided we fall.
Absolutely.
We have to stick together. So this is stop and correct. Well, what does that mean? What does that entail? Well, we need to correct the errors.
Yes.
Once we're aware of the mistakes, once we're aware that we've stepped outside of whatever agreement that it may be, we need to stop that. And then we need to correct that to the best of our knowledge and abilities. And to do that is where pushback, like interaction at a corporate, level, like courthouse or something,
Yes.
may be. So we need to correct the errors. We need to instruct the public servants as to the importance of correcting the errors.
Yes.
And to remain in honor. And we must remain peaceful while doing so that our explanation of correction is comprehended and carried out. And we need to remain open. We're not trying to hide anything. We need to be transparent and open as to why we're trying to correct the record. And we call this remaining in honor or standing in honor. So that is the standing that we're actually trying to defend here. And we're defending it through education.
Agreed. Well said. Next slide.
Yeah, next slide. Placing stamps. Well, we started out here, and I mentioned where to put the stamps and how much to use. Kind of depends on the purpose. Now, from what I gather, any stamp will cover it in an emergency situation, and I think they give the example of a traffic ticket or something.
Right.
Then you put a stamp where you're expected to sign, autograph across the stamp, and you're in the game.
Yep.
Okay. The amount will be an amount over $20. That
Yeah.
makes it important enough to invoke the Seventh Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the
Yeah.
Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all of it.
Well, that's why I like that, the concept of using greater than $20 in, especially in the the United States for America, lower you.
Yes, yeah, yes,
Because we get to invoke the Seventh Amendment and it gives us a higher court to stand in. Maybe that's one way to say that.
yes. Placement of stamps depends on what you're expressing, who you're dealing with, the whole deal. If I was going to send something to a trusted confidant, and you and I are going to develop a trust here before long,
Yep.
some humanitarian projects we have in
Yep.
mind, and I'm sure that we'll be trading papers about like this. On
Absolutely.
those papers, I do not mind placing the four corner stamps on the front of the page at all. They will be respected. They will be admired, they will be accepted,
Yes.
and you fully comprehend what we're doing here. By four cornering the page, we're locking it securely in the land and equity juris.
Yes.
It's not even open to the water juris.
Correct.
Now, this was an example between confidants, important papers that would require such denotation. Is that
Yep.
what I'm looking for? Now, if I was going to send this to a court, which we have a rather large packet of paper going out to the court here pretty quick, those will go on the back.
Right.
If I put them on the front of the page and send them in, they open the envelope and look at it, they're going to get scared immediately. It's going to set the tone for how they take the paper.
Right.
But when you put them on the back, it keeps the judge from just turning them upside down and looking at a blank piece of paper.
Right, and trying to
Because,
say you just got blank
yes,
papers. You didn't
they're
actually get anything
they're
with
there.
substance.
Yes.
Yes.
And the strongest portion, and now this is my opinion, but that's the lower right-hand corner. No one can add anything after that lower right-hand corner, and we want to be sure and have the last word.
Correct. I agree.
So the amount and the placement kind of depends on what you're doing.
Yes.
But we're looking at 9 positions. We're looking at the 4 corners on the back, the 4 corners on the front. We have an autograph line. The upper right-hand corner has been called the King's Corner.
Yeah.
Depending upon what you want to invoke or do. I'm not knowledgeable on that. I'm not going to speak to that.
And we'll put some of the resources that we've run into in the descriptions for wherever this ends up, or commentary if we're able.
We should put a link to that 12-minute video, because I mean,
Yeah.
we could spend a month just going over the 12 minutes presentation in that video. There is a lot in there.
Yeah, we'll get that in there.
Yeah, it really covers a lot. So placing stamps on the back of papers prevents the judge in commerce from saying the blank papers have been presented. That's a little trick of the court that they like to use. Yeah. If you're reading a contract and you see something in parentheses, what does that mean to you?
Oh, you mean the kill brackets?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I forget the proper name of those.
Yeah.
It's not the parentheses, it's the kill bracket. That means it's excluded from the contract.
Takes it out of the contract.
Yep.
Well, placing the stamps on the 4 corners basically does the same thing with the jurisdiction.
Excludes it from the commercial maritime jurisdiction.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, good stuff.
Therefore, invoking the standing of the man or woman on the land
and equity, yes.
Under a superior court of record via trust and treaty.
Agreed.
Yes.
All right.
Next slide. Which type of post or mail should be used? Post is for people, mail is for persons. Why there's debate over how certified and registered methods of delivery are recognized in common law, equity, and commercial/maritime jurisdictions, there are some added considerations here. And got the story of the town crier, officer who makes public announcements in the streets, typically using a handbell to attract attention. In the past, town criers were essential for disseminating information in towns and villages, especially in areas where literacy rates were low. They would often read proclamations aloud and then nail them to the doorpost of the local inn, which is where the expression posting a notice and the naming of newspapers, such as the Post, originated from.
I still am certain that there is a connection to the post office for similar reasons.
It is.
Because we used to have the post, in the town square where they,
Yep.
put the notices up too. I couldn't find a good picture of that, but so I just got the crier.
We'll repeat just a little bit. The registered mail, the alphanumerical stamps, and the money order, the de jure post,
Yeah,
versus the corporate side,
right.
certified, forever stamp, and utilization of the money order. There's also some things from that de jure post that are still in play that a lot of people don't know about. The counter and the scale, the brass slot in the wall,
Yeah,
and the bulletin board.
yeah.
Those are the de jure post.
And I know the post office here is too small to have the double slots in the wall and the two outside.
Yep.
But if you pay attention, if your post office has the two slots inside and two boxes outside, one is for metered mail, which would be de facto, I believe,
Yep.
or commercial maritime. And the stamped one, it'll say it's for stamped mail, should be for the de jure lawful common law and equity side.
Yeah. We'll go over to England for a little bit. The Magna Carta.
All right.
So 1215, I think it was the Magna Carta. And then there was a period of time, not too long, 1225, the boy that replaced King John.
Oh, yeah,
I guess it was. So the Magna Carta was written for the barons, not the common people. Well, the common people got a taste of what the barons done, and they, whoops, we get moved, and they wanted some of it for themselves, the freedoms, the right to remain safe in your effects. Yep. So there was a reissue of the Magna Carta, and when it was reissued, it was what they say, it was done on a sheepskin, I think it was, and they posted it at every church in the kingdom. They wanted to be sure that it was out there. They wanted to be sure that it was read. Back to your town crier story, they read it aloud and then they posted it on the doors of the church. They wanted to get the information out to the people.
Yes.
Want to go on to the next slide?
Yeah, somehow we got a hand raised on here. I didn't do that, so I don't know how to make it go away, but
No.
Y'all are just going to have to deal with me. I don't have a whole lot of, I'm not a professional videographer.
Did you even invite anybody to the presentation?
Just you.
Just me?
Yeah,
Well,
just
I must
you.
have raised my hand. Hi, me. Hold your questions till later. Okay, food for thought. The registered post maintains a chain of custody of record for the integrity of the item sent as it is transported in a locked box and must be signed for at each transfer point. That's really the whole reason why we're doing this. We're invoking a superior court of record.
Yes.
We are establishing a superior court of record.
That's right.
And that chain of custody is key to that.
Yes.
Papers are evidence to acts. Papers can be instruments we use to record acts with witness testimony. Certified post or mail does not maintain the chain of custody integrity for a court. It does provide tracking, but does not support evidence of being untampered with while in transport. Since registered post upholds chain of custody and integrity, it supports the foundation for a court of record without controversy. Just like a poor man's patent, sending lawful papers via registered post allows one to maintain their own court of record lawfully. Papers in court of record can be the highest form of evidence as they often contain witness validation to acts. Now, the poor man's copyright or poor man's patent, if you will,
Yep.
is the first in line. First in law is the chiefest in law.
Yep.
So when I put something together and I go register, mail it, and get it back to myself, I keep that unopened. And I have that postmark date on there for anything that comes after it. I can prove that I have that there because it's
Correct.
the first in law, it's the chiefest in law.
Yes.
And that takes us right back to the Republic. The UPU notification, the National acceptance, international acceptance by other nations. That
Yes.
can't be done without invoking the post.
I like to look at the UPU in this light because technically they are affiliated with the UN. They are a commercial organization, but there is common law and commerce. These are all things we're not going to elaborate on today. They're things I'm still studying, in fact.
Truth and commerce is sovereign.
Yes, but we want to stay in common law and equity as much as possible. So the UPU does recognize those things. The UPU was actually formed with a constitution and with treaties, so they certainly recognize that higher jurisdiction of trust, which is where treaties are in trust, are
Yep.
they not?
Yep.
Yes. So that's why the UPU is still a very valid uh, place for us to post notices to be recognized in an international arena for common law and equity.
Yeah, absolutely. Superior Court of Records,
Yep.
superior law form, demonstrating your standing.
Yes.
So,
I think that about covers it.
yeah.
All right.
I hope you guys have a fun journey. It's been rewarding, but it's been tough.
Yes.
And just hang in there. Stop and correct. It's all about intention. If you find yourself a bridge, stop and correct. That's it.
Blessings.